Hey there! In this video we are going to do something really fun, and that is using Python to consume a REST API to fetch the match results of the World Cup 2022. Then, using Google APIs, we'll populate those values into a Google Spreadsheet, which I use for a friendly wedding that I have with two of my colleagues. So let's get started. Okay, all of the code that you'll see in this video should be already pushed to my GitHub repository. I will put the link to it in the description so that you can clone and mess around with it as you want. Now, in order to use Google APIs, you first need to have a Google developer profile. I will put the link to the portal in the description, and assuming you already have a normal Google account, you just need to enable the profile for yourself when you get to the website. Then, in order to interact with Google APIs on behalf of a user, you need to define a project in the Google Cloud Platform. So let's take care of it step by step. The first step is to create a project. We select on the project selection drop-down, and in the modal click on the new project. We first need to give it a name. I will put it demo for it. No organization, because this is just a personal project that we will use to authorize our own user. The project will be created for me. It will take a little bit of time, and we'll get back to it as soon as it's done. Actually, it's done, so let's select the project. The project is selected. The next step is to define the OAuth consent screen, and that is when the user wants to authorize our application, this is what is shown to the user. So we click on the menu on the left side, go to API and Services, OAuth consent screen, and I will select external because I am using a normal Google account. I'm not using Google Workspace. I cannot actually use internal, so I will use external and create the OAuth screen. App name, I will put it Yashar HMD personal. Your support email will be my personal email. We also need to put the developer contact information. I will again put my personal email. You can define the domain, add a logo, but I will use it personally, so let's save and continue. The scopes, I will leave it as it is, blank, because we'll define the scope in the code. You will see it in a little bit in the Python script. Then, it is very important that since our application in the beginning is in testing mode, no user can use it actually. But we can add users as test users so they can use the application. I will put my personal email account as the test user, and it's added. Let's save and continue. It takes me to the summary screen, and that's it. Now it's time to enable the APIs that we want to use. In our case is Google Sheets API. We click on the menu, we go to API and Services, Library, we select Google Sheets API, we enable it. It will take a little bit of time. Meanwhile, we will go and create the client credentials that we want. It's actually enabled right now. So we go to the credentials, and create credentials, OAuth client ID, application type web application, name I will call it Python because I will use this code in my Python scripts. No need to put URI, but it is very important to put the correct exact value here as the redirect URI. I will go and take this value from my code. You will also have it in the code in the repository. And let's create the client credentials, and now it gives me a JSON. Let's download it. I downloaded the JSON, copy and pasted it into my working directory as my script as client secret, it's excluded from Git, so when you clone the repository, you will not get this file. Whatever you name it, wherever you put it, it's okay, it doesn't matter, but make sure that in the authorize script, line 28, you put the right path and name of the file here so that we can access it from the Python script. Before we go into the code, there are a few Python libraries that we need to install. I will put the link in the description so you can come here and install the Python libraries. If you're using IntelliJ, there might be some issues that you will encounter with the libraries. At the end of this video, I will talk about that. Also, if you scroll down in this documentation, you will see that it has some information about how to authorize an end user. I actually did this part and tweaked it in my favor. I have this script that I have a server thread class, and I also have an authorize user function, which at the end returns a token that I will use to call Google APIs. So what does this script do? We tell it to load the credentials from cache or not. If so, and if the credentials actually exist, it will actually load them from cache. It doesn't need to take the user to the authorization anymore. Then, if not, we go to the next step, and if user has credentials, we make sure that we revoke it. That's why, because we might have credentials for the user with different scopes that doesn't work for our new script, for example. So we have to remove it and actually revoke it. Then we start the authorization process, which we will set some values, we'll start the server, put the redirect URI, and as you can remember, this is the exact value that we put in the client credentials. It will take the user in their browser to the Google consent screen, and when they grant access, it will come back to this callback API. We will grab the information, then at the end, and save it to the user credentials file, and at the end we will load that file and return it back to the calling function. We have this user credentials script, which is pretty simple. It checks if the file exists, it saves, loads, and removes, and also at the end it returns a dictionary based on the token that we received from Google. Now let's start coding. First, let's see if the authorization works. So from authorize, let's import authorize user. We need to pass the scopes, and after reading the documents, I know this is the ultimate scope that I need to read from and write to spreadsheets. And let's say credentials equals to authorize user with the scopes. I will not load from cache because this is the first time. So let's run it. It takes me here. I select my personal account. It says Google hasn't verified this app. It's because it's in testing mode. I'm not going to use it for externally for other users. I'm using it personally, so I'm okay. I will continue, but you can put your application into into production mode if you want. That's okay. Anyway, let's continue. It tells me what access this app wants to see, edit, create, and delete all your Google Sheets spreadsheets. Let's continue. You see, we are authorized. And when we come back, the user credentials file is saved. It's also excluded from Git, so you cannot get it from my GitHub repository. Now that we have the credentials, let's go and read some values of a spreadsheet using the service API. First, let's make sure that we load from cache so that from now on, it does not take us to the authorizer screen every time that we run the script. In the documentation, you can see there are different interactions that we can have with the API. At this point, we need to get some values from a spreadsheet. Here are some sample code. I already read the document and know a little bit. I will put the link in the description so you can go and check different parts of the documentation. This is the spreadsheet that I actually want to interact with. We have the matches. We have each row actually represents a match. The team names. This row is actually an example. The estimated scores of me and my colleagues, the final score of the match, then the scores that we got from betting on that match, and the match ID, and whether it's finals or not. There are some formula here. Whenever I insert a new row by code, I want this formula to be copied into those values as well, into those cells as well. We'll take care of it when we write to the sheet. Right now, what I need is actually the match ID and whether it's finalized or not for each row. So I need this range M2 to N. Let's actually insert another row as an example. ABC. No. So I need the range M2 to N. So here, let's create the service equals to Google API client.discovery. Let's import it. Import Google API client.discovery. Build sheets version 4 credentials equals to the credentials that we loaded. Now here you can see in the sample code that I need to run this script. Okay, for the sheet ID, I have already put it in the environment variables, so I get it from os.getEnv sheet ID. You can put in a string here if you want. I did this because I want to push the same code that we see in the video into the repository. Sheet ID, then the range was M2 to N. Then let's execute this request and the response would be this one. Let's print the response and let's run it. As you can see, it returns the range and the dimensions and the values. Now let's convert this to a function. So it returns a dictionary, converting the data for us. So let's actually clean up the code a little bit. This one here, get matches in sheet dot get. Here you can see in the response values is what we need, values, and if it's none, return an empty list. Then let's say values. I want to return a dictionary. Return out. Then let's enumerate in the values because I need the index for I value in enumerate values out.update. The first, the key should be the ID, which is value at index 0. So value 0 equals to itself. I want it to be a dictionary. First, whether it's final or not. So value 1, which is yes or no, is equal to yes to convert it to a boolean, and also the row index, which is very important when we want to insert values. It starts at I starts at 0, but the rows start at 1. So why? Because actually here we excluded the first header. This is row 0, this is row 1. We started from here, so we need to have I plus 1 to start from 1. Now let's run this. Print get matches in sheet. As you can see, it says the first row XYZ, the ID equals to final yes, row index 1, ABC, final no, row index 2. So far so good. Okay, now let's write some data into the spreadsheet. After reading the document, I know I need to use the batch update. It matches my scenario. I can insert row, copy the formula, and update the cells and everything. Let's start with inserting a row. First, we need to pass a request which includes different types of requests. We will go into them one by one. The first one is insert dimension, which is to insert a new row in our batch update. What we can do is that by calling just one API, we can take care of all of the information that we want to put into the spreadsheet using the batch update operation. So what I need is actually a service spreadsheets dot batch update spreadsheet ID equals to sheet ID. Then the body of the request should be something like this. Requests, it's an array of different type of requests. This one is append dimension, which it says to the dimension is rows and insert one. Okay, let's clean it up a little bit. And let's see if it actually works. Print done. Okay, let's come here and one new row is inserted. You can see it's empty. Also, I wanted the formula to be copied and pasted into the values. It's not working. Let's actually remove the second row, all of the rows. Let's keep only the first one. Okay. Now, the next thing that we need to do is to, let's say, copy and paste the formula. Now, this time, after inserting a row, I want these columns formula to be copied into the next row cells. So here, the next request that we need is actually a copy paste. It says copy paste, source is one specific cell, destination is another specific cell, and paste type is paste formula. This is the correct row index for this one, 0, 1, 2, 3, and at the end 9. This would be 10 and then 12. To address the cell, we need to tell a starting row and the ending row as exclusive. So if we want the first row, this row actually, the row starts of here 0, then 1. So 1 means here, 2 is exclusive, so it means this row, and then the column means 9 means this, 10 is in exclusive, this 10 value, end column, so it means only this cell. And the same goes for the destination, but for the destination, I'm putting the wrong values. 0 and 1 are not correct, because when I insert 1, the index would actually be 1, I believe, and 2. So also, since I want to copy and paste these cells as well, the request here would become bigger and bigger. So let's convert it to a function and make it modular and put it in a different script. So let's say new Python let's say sheet all top row, I would say. So what it returns, it would, let's define a function, new row, and let's say that it returns us the index of the row. For now, let's return an array of different requests here. This is what we need. Let's clean it up a little bit. Actually, the first way was better. Okay. So what does IntelliJ tell us? Duplicate code fragment. It doesn't matter. So this one would be row index, which is index. This one would be index plus 1. Don't forget that the end index for row and column is exclusive. We also want this formula for the next columns, so let's duplicate it. So I would say 10, 11, same here, 10, 11, then it would be 11, 12, 11, 12. For now we are inserting only one row, but pretty soon we will insert multiple rows. So let's do something. Let's do batch update requests equals to an empty array, and here let's pass this value. Batch update request. We can make it a one-liner here now. We need to import that one from sheet workup row import, I believe it was new row. So let's say batch update requests extend new row index. Now we need the row index. Row index, we can do a trick. The length of this one shows the row index. We need to actually get the length and add 1 to it. So next row index, I would say, would be length of the, and let's actually convert it to a variable here. The spreadsheet matches equals to this one. So length of a spreadsheet matches. Now next row index. So next row index. So let's make sure this file is clean. Let's run this one and see what happens. Actually, I made a mistake. I need to add 1 to the length of a spreadsheet matches. Now this time let's run and make sure it works. Okay, a new row is inserted. The formula is also updated, and you can see the values are updated based on the row index. The first one is B2, C2, for example here B2, H2. This is H3, B3, C3 here. Also D3, D2, E2, everything, it seems to be working. The next step is to insert the cell values for the match name, which is team A and B, for example, match ID, and the final column we will put no, because at this moment it's not finalized. So let's take care of it. The request would be update cell. This should be index. Okay, so this is column index 0, which is for this column. let's count the columns 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I believe this should be 12 and this should be 13. I will check that again. Anyway, the string value, let's say new match. Let's make it a string, sorry. Match at index. Then we need another request for the match ID. Match ID with the index again, but the column index should be, let's count again, 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 actually. So this should be 13. Then at the end, we'll put here no at 14 because this row is not finalized yet. Let's clean it again and delete the row, run it again and make sure it works. You can see match at 2, match ID 2, then no. Then for the last step about writing into the spreadsheet, let's assume that we have the match ID, this time is 184 for example. It's not finalized, but now we got the scores and we want to finalize that row. So let's take care of it. So let's come here because we need to do a batch update again. Let's define a new method that says finalize row. Then again we need the index, then home score, away score, then that's it I believe. It should return an array of, the request is update cell, and row index should be the index. The column index, when it's 7, I believe, I'm sure this time I'm correct, it's the home score. So here we have the home score. Home score, it's a number value because it needs to be calculated in the formulas. Then we need another request for the away score. And that is away score, the column index 8. Then finally we need to update the last row and make it finalized. This time is a string value and this time is yes, finalized. So let's assume that we have this match equals to ID, I believe it was 184, home score equals to, home score equals to, let's say 1, away score is 3 actually. Then here let's actually do something else. We also, let's update the spreadsheet matches when we define a new row. So let's say spreadsheet matches that then update. We need something like this. The value is 184 is the ID of the match. Let's actually make it here also the ID of the match as, let's say, match ID here. 184. So 184, oh come on, sorry, 184 equals to final no, because it's a new row, and row index would be next row index. Then actually this should be a string value. Okay, let's actually move it here. We have this match, and then let's get the spreadsheet row. Spreadsheet row equals to spreadsheet matches dot get with match dot get ID. Let's actually get the match ID only once. Match ID equals to this one. So match ID. Then now we need to ask for another batch update request. This time with finalizer. So actually let's import everything from this script. Now we have finalize row. We need the index. The index would be spreadsheet row dot get row index. Home score would be match dot get home score. Away score would be match dot get away score. And here, let's say if batch request updates, batch update request, then comes again. Let's clean up the sheet. Delete row, and let's run this. Again, another mistake. The type of the cell ID should be string, not a number. Let's run this and make sure it works. This time it worked. We have the new row match at 2, the final scores are inserted, the match ID and everything, and it's finally finalized. So we took care of everything. Now it's time to actually read the values of the matches from the World Cup API, the actual values, and put them into the spreadsheet. This guy, Reza Rahiminiya, he's from Iran. He did a nice thing. He implemented a free API. I will put the link to his repository in the description below, so you can go and check it. Also, you can buy him a cup of coffee. As we can see the API, we need to register a user. It returns already a token that we will use to call the other APIs. Then later we can also call the login API to grab a new token and so forth. So let's start with registering a user. This would be, okay, let's copy the API value. Let's come back here, create a new Python script. I would call it World Cup API. I want to have a function. When I call it, it will return the matches for me. It should take care of the user registration or login and everything for me, even filtering and sorting the matches and everything. So let's define the function matches. Let's put the base URL here. Then let's define the register function. So let's print registering World Cup user. Then let's return the request post. Then the URL should be base URL. Base URL / user. Then we need the JSON data. it should be like this. I already have put these values inside the environment variables, but you can pass simple strings here. So name would be os.get env lookup user name, os.get env lookup user password. Oh, sorry, it should be email. Then this one should be password, then again password confirm, then okay, let's make sure that we only call this API only once and register the user information, actually cache the user information in a file, so that next times we only log in, not register. So I would define the user info file as lookup user info.json. This file will also be excluded from Git, so when you clone the repository, you will not get it. So if not file exists, actually is file user file info, it means we are not registered. But to make it simpler, let's write it something like, let's actually write it to the file, so after we pass these lines, the file already exists, the info already exists. Open the user info file to write as file, and with open, and here we JSON the dump we should pass, let's say, registered equals to false. False. Then to the file, let's make it beautiful. So after this line, the file already exists. So user info, let's open the file this time to read user info file, read as file, user info equals to json.load, this time file. If user info.get registered, actually if the user is not registered, let's register the user. Actually here we need to, here is the response of the API, so we can see that it has the data, and inside the data it has the token. So let's say from the request, when we make the post request, let's get the response as JSON, then let's get the data, then let's get token. So this function returns a token. So token would be register, and we also need to update the user info file. Let's actually convert it to a modular function, email and password. Let's say we put it here. user email, user password. And let's use the values here. Name, email, and password. Okay. Oh, we did a mistake here. Okay. So now let's save the file when we register. So let's open it to write again. Write as file json.dump what we need to register. Now this time is true. Email is user email. For login we only need user and email. We will see in the API documentation. We need the email and password. Password is user password, and write it to the file and have the indentation of 2 spaces. Else, if not the user is registered, we need to log in. So let's define the login, which should be modular email and password. From the documentation, we will see that it's the user login URI, and it returns the same data response actually as the registration. It needs only email and password. So let's actually copy and paste this. Now logging in World Cup user. We don't have the email, we don't need the password confirm and everything. So else token equals to login. Email email would be user info.get. Now we have already this value from the user info file. Would be email, and password would be user info.get password. Now it's time to actually fetch the matches. In the API documentation, it says the URI is match, and it will return a response with data as an array. So let's do it this way. Result equals to request.get. The base URL would be here, and then match. Then we need to pass the headers. Authorization as bearer token. Then return it to JSON, and then get the value data. So for item in result, let's print item. Then let's run this function one more time and see what it brings for us. Oh, it did actually return all of the matches. So the structure of data is like this. It has ID. Actually in the response it says underscore ID. I will use this one. It seems more reliable. I need the home team, away team, match ID, the final, whether it's finalized, the local date to sort the matches. Then I believe that's it. Let's go step by step. So let's do something. Let's define a function here that converts the matches. Let's say readable match gets item, and it returns a dictionary of the values that we need. First is ID, is item.get underscore ID, then it's, let's say, final, it should get item.get finished dot upper equals to true. It's a string that it returns to make sure. Finished, true, yeah. Then we need the date. Let's actually import from date time, import date time. Let's say date time. We need to format it. The format is, I think it says something here, but I saw it, it's a different format. Let's run it again. So local date is this one. So let's put it here. We need to format it. So item get local date, the format would be month, day of the month, year in 4 digits, then hour, then minute. Then let's run it again. We actually need the home team item that get. We have home team. Where is it? Oh, okay. Home team English, away team English. Home team English. Then we have the away. Away team English. Then we have home score. Away score. It's the same. Home score. Away score equals to item that get away score. Now let's actually filter the results and print them. So let's map to the function readable match these values, and in order for IntelliJ to not nag about this, let's convert it to I, and let's run this again. Okay, you can see we have ID, we have this is actually a dictionary, and these are the values that we need. So the last thing is actually to sort these values. Let's sort them. So here we can actually finally return sorted, and we need to sort them by their date. So would be item I.get date. So let's now print the results of the matches. Yeah, it works. So that's it about the World Cup API. So now we need to go and fetch the matches and insert them into the Google spreadsheet. So here, from World Cup API import matches. So I would say World Cup matches equals to matches. Now what we need to do is to check if the match ID for match in World Cup matches, if match, actually let's do it this way, match ID equals to match get ID. If match ID not in a spreadsheet matches, then we need to insert it. Now let's insert the correct values. This should come here. So the ID here would be match ID. Of course the row is not finalized. The row index is correct. But here the new row, we should actually pass the correct values, the team names and everything. So what we need is we are inserting the match name. So let's say match name, then also we are inserting the match ID. So here it should be match ID. So here it should be match name. It should be here match ID. So for the match name, we need let's say match.get home dash match.get away. Oh, come on, sorry. Away. Then for the match ID, we have the match ID. Also, at the end of each iteration, we should make sure to update the next row index. Next row index, we should increment it by 1. So we don't need these two here. Let's comment out this line for now. So if there are new matches that we do not have it in our Google spreadsheet, this script will insert those matches. Actually, I need to fix this. I made a mistake here. Now let's run and hope everything works. And now we are done. Let's see the results. You can see all of the matches from the beginning to now are inserted. The next step would be check which matches are finalized and update their scores and make sure the row is finalized as well. So let's first filter the not finalized matches. So not finalized, actually the rows in the spreadsheet equals to key value for key value spreadsheet matches if value final is not true. So if not value of final is not true, then if there are not finalized rows, then we need again to filter the matches that are finalized from the World Cup API. So finalized matches equals to let's say match for match in World Cup matches if match.get final. Now for match in finalized matches, so for each finalized match, we are trying to find them in the not finalized rows in the Google spreadsheet and update those values. What we need to do here is to batch update. We need the row index. The row index comes from we first need, let's say the match ID equals to match.get ID. Then we need to find the row from the spreadsheet rows. So row equals to spreadsheet matches dot get match ID. So we get the index from there. Let's clean this up. We need the row dot get row index. We need the, let's see, the row for finalize. We need the home score and away score. So we need match.get home score, also match.get away score. Actually, in line 47, it should be spreadsheet matches.items. So let's run this. Yes. And yes, you can see all of the scores for the matches that have been finished so far are inserted. Now for IntelliJ users, you might encounter some issues if you run your script through IntelliJ, and that is installing Python libraries and Python being aware of them actually. So when you come to your project structure, you go to SDK, you see your Python SDKs, you should install the packages here from the Packages tab. Click the plus button, for example, Google API Client. I did install it by PIP, but it didn't work when running the script from my IntelliJ. So you need to install the packages from here. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, please give this video a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so that you get notified when the next video is published. Take care and have a good one.